Conversion was such an interesting research project because so many of the things that we think are true about witches turn out to be huge misconceptions. For instance, nobody was burned as a witch in England or in North America because witchcraft was a civil crime, just like murder, instead of an ecclesiastic crime. So that was some interesting thing that I learned. Another interesting thing about witchcraft, or an interesting misconception about witchcraft in the 1600s, is that we tend to think that witches were all like old women. We have this crone idea of old women, but actually most people who were accused as witches in the 1600s were women at middle age. And the other thing that's interesting is they tended to be accused by, oftentimes by either other women or by young girls. And so in the story in Conversion, it's really about what it felt like to be one of these adolescent girls in a position of accusing someone else as a witch, and what does it feel like to live in a world where that's the case. Well, hysteria is a funny word. It's kind of a dated word, and it's also like a very Freudian word, and it's not really used in psychiatry anymore, but it's true that there is something uniquely intense about the adolescent girl experience. And so that oftentimes, if there are outbreaks of what is now called mass psychogenic illness, that's the word we use now instead of hysteria, typically those are among groups of adolescent girls, and they're actually very common. They occur across cultures, they occur across time, they occur very frequently. And so the present part of the story in Conversion was inspired by something that really happened in upstate New York just a couple of years ago when a group of adolescent girls had a strange illness that no one could explain. A number of books definitely inspired me to write Conversion. Mostly history books, I have to be honest. There's a terrific book called In the Devil's Snare, which is written by a big historian named Mary Beth Norton, which, if you're interested in the real story behind what happened in the Salem witch trials, that is by far the best book to read. But there are also a number of terrific fictional treatments of what happened at Salem. And in fact, the story in Conversion is really in dialogue with the play The Crucible, which was written by Arthur Miller in the 1950s. The Crucible has one perspective on what happened at Salem. Conversion has a very different perspective on what happened at Salem, and it's interesting to see how those two perspectives interact. Witchcraft is really different today from in the 1600s, mainly because today there actually is a real religion called Wicca, which a lot of people adhere to, and a lot of people who follow Wicca feel a really strong sense of solidarity for the people who were tried as witches in the past. But people who were tried as witches in the past were not tried because of doing anything wrong. They tended to be Christian people, and the reason they were tried was because they didn't fit in. It's true, there were a couple of secret witches hiding on the family tree. One of them was Elizabeth Howe, who was actually tried and put to death during the first wave of the Salem witch crisis. And she was kind of a grumpy, quarrelsome person, which of course is something I would know nothing about. And the second was Elizabeth Proctor, who was dramatized in The Crucible. She was supposed to be put to death, but she got a temporary stay because she was expecting a baby, and they were going to very kindly wait till after she had the baby and then kill her. But luckily for her, the trial came to an end just in the nick of time. And the third one I found out about just recently, and through one of those freakish coincidences that sometimes happen. She's a woman named Deliverance Dane, who was a character I wrote about in my first novel, which was published in the UK as The Lost Book of Salem, and in the US as The Physic Book of Deliverance Dane. It turns out Deliverance Dane is even more closely related to me than Elizabeth Howe, and when I learned that, my brain exploded and started dripping down the walls. Oh, by far my favorite Halloween costume ever was the year that I put a napkin on my head, wore a long skirt and a turtleneck, and wore a white chef apron that I bought and put a bright red A on in marker, and I went as Hester Prynne. My next project that I'm very excited about is a young adult novel called The Appearance of Annie Van Sinderen, which is set in New York City. And it's about a guy named Wes who is in summer school for film, and he meets this mysterious girl named Annie and falls so hard for her, it's just pathetic. And he can't understand why she's being so elusive and standoffish. And then it turns out that Annie is going to need his help to solve a crime that happened many, many, many years ago. One thing that has been so great to hear from readers that they seem to really enjoy about Conversion is that it has two timelines. Most of the story takes place basically in the present in a group of prep school girls, and the second story takes place in the past, around 1692. And they're both around groups of adolescent girls, and so one of the things that's really fun about Conversion is to think about what's different about being a teenager in the present versus being a teenager in the past, and also what's the same, because I think there's a lot more in common than we might expect between these times. This yellow bird, which I hasten to add is a fake tattoo, this yellow bird is inspired by an element in the story. So if you go as a witch for Halloween today, you always have to have as part of your costume a little black cat. That black cat is based on an idea of a spirit familiar, which is something that shows up in all of the records of witch trials from the early modern period. But they weren't always cats, is the crazy thing about spirit familiars. In fact, people talk about seeing toads, snakes, rats, dogs, and very frequently in the Salem records, we hear mention of a yellow bird.